We've been diving deep into learning to draw lately, but sometimes it's nice to just pause, pick up a brush or a pencil, and create without a plan. Today's about finding a bit of peace and mindfulness in that simple act. Lately, I've been focusing on teaching drawing, on skills, techniques, and practice, that I don't want to forget the simple joy of just creating. So today I want to slow down, let go of control, and reconnect with the mindfulness that comes from making art for its own sake. In my last few videos, I've been focused on teaching some important core skills, breaking things down, studying, practicing skills. But for this, I wanted to get back to something a little more intuitive, to that peaceful, mindful side of creating where you can just let the painting lead you. That's what my sketchbook is all about. I've only used a reference photo for the little dog in this spread. Everything else is sort of evolved on its own. Animals have always been close to my heart. Before I started painting full-time, I worked for many years as a dog trainer and a groomer. I did a lot of animal rescue too, dogs, cats, horses, so including animals in my art is always near and dear to my heart. The rest of my sketchbook spread just happened kind of intuitively. I found myself wanting to include patterns. Patterns are really interesting to me, so I included a patterned rug, some wallpaper, and even a big ceramic vessel with a design on it. I love patterns. They bring rhythm and structure into a piece, and even when I'm working intuitively, I love including vintage objects like the big ceramic piece next to the dog. Those are all things I love and collect, so I keep old pottery and vintage things around the studio to inspire me. I often include those in my paintings, so it was just natural, I guess, for me to add that in. The first session on this page took well over an hour, maybe longer, but it didn't even feel like it. You know, those moments when you're so absorbed, time just disappears. That's the kind of mindful flow I try to find when I paint, where every brush stroke feels like a quiet breath. This mindfulness is what everyone talks about, is exactly what you can find when you're making art. It's so good for your brain, your heart, and your soul. I think it's important to give yourself the grace to create, to make mistakes, and to know that not everything has to be perfect. Let the painting evolve on its own. You don't always have to know where it's going. Just start, play, explore, and see where it leads you. My first layer, and I always think in layers when I'm creating, it started with just a simple pencil sketch. And I never erase, and I always encourage my students not to. I actually always say, find your line. So if you're just, drawing and you don't make the right line the first time, go back and try to find that line. So I don't erase, so no erasing. I wasn't trying to overthink things. I just draw lightly, knowing I can change things later. And then I went in with a wash of Gansai or the Japanese watercolors is what I'm using here. And I know that on the video you can only really see one set, but I have 3 sets out. I have 2 of the Gansai Tambi sets out, and I will link in the description box below to all the materials that I'm using so that you'll know what I'm using, because I'm using some color pencils and other things here too that you might be interested in. So I'll have the links in the description box for you to look at. So I went in with the Gansai Tambi, and this is another set of Japanese watercolors. I'll also link to those. And so I went in with that. And then the colors in these sets are just so rich and so luminous. They're just a little bit different than regular traditional watercolors. And I really love them, and I've been obsessed with them lately. So I'm really painting a lot with them lately. But they're still soft enough to layer really well. And I just really love them. So again, like the time really goes by so fast because I'm in the flow state when I'm doing this. And an hour or more can pass and it feels like just minutes are going by. And it's the kind of space I really want to invite you into, where you're painting just for you with no pressure or expectations. Every line, every brushstroke becomes like a little meditation. It's a way to reconnect with yourself and to find peace through the act of creating. So now I'm just kind of working my way around, just kind of touching up some of these areas just a little bit, because sometimes I work my way around the painting, and then I let things dry and I may touch some stuff up. And as I said before, I did use a reference when I was drawing this dog, but this dog was I think he was black or something. And so once I drew him and I got all the details down on him, I put the picture away and I decided to make the little doggy a different color, because sometimes when you're trying to paint really dark animals, they don't come out that well. So I decided to make him more of a creamy color with some white and in his fur and stuff, because sometimes you just really lose the details when you're trying to do black animals. And I wanted a really stress-free, not a concentrated kind of painting experience for this sketchbook. I've done plenty of black animals, but you really have to kind of concentrate. It's harder. So I decided to draw the picture and then go in with my my colors and create a different color for this animal, because I just didn't really want to deal with having to do a black dog. So I just kind of made him like a buff color, and I think he was a little mixed breed dog, so I was like, he kind of looked a little bit like a Chihuahua Pomeranian, kind of a mixed dog or something, really cute little puppy. So I just went with the flow. So when I came back to the piece later, and this is when I come back to it after like a day or, the next day, I really started to look at the colors and see what places I wanted to accentuate. A lot of times when you walk away from something and come back overnight or the next day or something, you have kind of more fresh eyes to look at it. So I started to really just really accentuate the colors, deepen some colors, and light in some areas. I finished painting the first layer and I started really refining the colors with my Crayon Dash super soft pencils, and I really love these color pencils. I actually learned about these pencils from a painter I met on Instagram during the pandemic. I was a real fan of his work. He was based in London. He was known for his really incredible colored pencil work, and he was so kind and generous with his knowledge, and he shared this process with me and even told me about these pencils, the super soft, which I was unaware of, even though I'm a huge color pencil person. And one of his processes was to use them with an oil painting medium, which was just really fascinating to me. And since I've always loved colored pencils, they've become one of my very favorites. And Crayon Dash is one of my favorite brands are just such a beautiful brand, and their materials always feel so considered and just really well made. They're just really high quality. So as I worked on this piece, I kept adjusting the colors, and some areas I softened, some areas I deepened, changing the tones a little bit. Especially on the rug, you'll see I actually lightened some of the blue. I intensified some of the yellow orange in the flower on the rug, and those two little tweaks made those colors work better and in a more harmonious way. That's the thing about intuitive painting. It's all about trusting your instincts and letting the work evolve and not worrying too much about the end result. I mean, if I fussed with that the day before, it wouldn't have come out the same. I just kind of had to let it sit and percolate a little bit. So when you're new to art, it's natural to really think more about composition and color theory and all the little details. But with time, so much of it becomes instinctive, and you start to feel when things are working. And practicing this way, slowly, gently, without pressure, without pressuring yourself at all, can really open the door to that flow state that we're all craving. So if you can take anything at all from this conversation, I hope it's to allow space for your painting to guide you. You don't need to control every single detail. Just showing up to do the work, being present, and allowing the process to unfold, and let your painting guide the process.